Alright, so I got the 1943 GRI all broken down. Take a closer look at all the parts. Buttstock's in pretty good shape. These two holes in the back for the butt plate screws will definitely have to be filled with hardwood dowels and re-drilled. The top screw especially just kind of pulled right out. Now looking at the underside of this, I kind of figured out what this is. This is actually a Martini Henry butt plate. It's the checkered pattern as well. So just as a comparison, you look at a similar butt plate. This one is not checkered, but it's also a Martini Henry butt plate. See, it's pretty spot on as far as the shape. Does look like they bent it a bit though. Probably heated it and bent it to fit into place. I'll definitely hold on to this. I'll probably use it for one of my Martini Henrys because one of mine has a somewhat pitted butt plate. So I'll probably reshape this to make it straighter again and then just fit it to the Martini Henry that I have. And I'll replace the butt plate with a proper brass #1 Mark III butt plate. Stock bolt looks pretty good. No pitting or anything on it. The finish underneath the wood also looks pretty good. I mean, overall the finish for this one I would say is pretty decent for a B grade. Just some bare metal on some of the exposed areas, which is not uncommon. You can see the spring, the firing pin, looks like it's in good shape. I was a little worried that the back part of this might have been snapped off or something, but it just looks like it wasn't screwed in all the way. So that's good. Bolt head looks like it's in good shape. Same with the screw for retaining the spring. Trigger guard's in good shape. Looking at the fore end, looks pretty good. Don't see any cracks or damage inside of it. It's the only part I saw with any kind of visible damage. That's pretty much it. Looking down the rest of the barrel, you can see it's got a pretty decent amount of finish. And towards the end here you see some of that green paint that they would apply to the Enfields, especially in India. Helps prevent corrosion in tropical environments. Nose caps, pretty much in the white, but looks like it's in pretty good shape. And the top handguard parts also in pretty good shape. It's hard to say when it got the green paint. Could have been in India, could have been in Australia. It does look like that could have been modified through service in Australia. Magazine definitely bent. Dent right here, but should be able to fix that. And then the band here looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and boil and card all these parts. Also clean up the stock. The first thing I like to do with these stocks is I get a brush and I just brush out all the loose dirt. Just brush all that out into the trash. Just use a little bit of that in the stock pieces here, and you don't want to try to rub it with linseed oil and clean it out. It's just a bunch of loose dirt. Now that you've brushed it all off, we're going to get some boiled linseed oil on this. So this wood's relatively clean, so I think just some linseed oil on it will really help. A lot of it's just surface dirt. It's just a little dry, so I'm going to rub it in circles onto the wood here. You can see it's already picking up a lot of dirt there, already bringing out a lot of grains in the wood. You can see there's definitely a big difference between the way it looked before and the way it's looking now. You can see a similar effect here in the fore end. You can see the difference between this and this. So we'll go ahead and rub all this down with linseed oil. And once it's dry and I rub it off, I'll show you how it looks. It's got the infield mostly cleaned up. See the finishes coming out pretty nicely on it, where the wood covered it up. Stock bolts in pretty good shape. They can sometimes get pretty pitted. The carding did help on some of the parts. The parts that were just completely bare obviously are kind of beyond fixing, but you can see the carding did help a little bit. Magazine does have a dent in it. See, the nose cap did get a little bit of help from carding, but not much. Still pretty bare. Stock looks pretty good. Cleaned up nicely. See the top handguard. It's pretty nice. A lot of times they're cracked or broken, but this one's in really nice shape. Same with the top handguard here. Buttstock's in really good shape too. The linseed oil did a pretty good job on it. I will have to do a little bit of work on it. Got a brass butt plate on there, but you can see they fitted the previous butt plate onto it. So I'm gonna have to do a stock repair on the top portion here to get that to fit properly. Bolt and firing pin and everything looks good. You can see there's quite a bit of green paint left. I do try my best to preserve green paint when I see it. I was able to preserve the majority of it that was remaining. And underneath the green paint looks like there's some pretty good finish, so did its job of protecting the finish. As far as cleaning tips, best advice I can give is use oil and brass brushes and very fine steel wool for any stubborn spots. The brass brushes won't scratch the steel. They do a pretty good job of cleaning out hard to get spaces. Q-tips are also really useful, as well as pipe cleaners, especially in areas like where you need to clean the threads out here for the screw. Q-tips do a really good job at that. All right, so we'll go ahead and reassemble this and show you how it looks. It's got the infield reassembled. Take a closer look at it. Starting with the buttstock, you can see it's come out pretty nicely. Linseed oil did a pretty good job on it. Cleaned up the stock disc here. Looks like some kind of like rack or regimental numbers. The only issue is the butt plate. They took a big piece of wood out of here to fit that Martini Henry butt plate. And there's a little bit of a space here. So I'm going to have to do some work on the buttstock to get this to fit properly. So what I'll probably end up doing is a period stock repair by cutting the top part of this stock out. Very similar to this stock repair. And this is on a 1918 BSA. Another thing to note is the sling swivel here. This screw here doesn't go all the way in anymore, and I suspect it's because, like a lot of wood screws on milsurps, by removing it, might have caused some damage to the threads. So what I'll probably end up doing is drilling out that hole, putting a hardwood dowel in there, and then re-drilling it. So the dowel will basically allow me to redo the threads inside of it. I was able to do that on another Enfield that I have. Worked pretty well. You can see the marking here is pretty strong. GRI 1943, and it's a #1 Mark III star. Looks like it got a little bit of wire wheel on it, but not too bad. You can see that there's still a lot of finish on this side, whereas the wire wheel kind of hit it here. Wrist fits pretty well. No cracks or anything on the wrist. You can see the carding did help a little bit with like the trigger guard, getting some of that finish back. Magazine's pretty much toast when it comes to the finish. A lot of pitting there on the bolt here, but pretty smooth action though. No other damage to the bolt. A little bit of minor pitting here towards the front. It's got a H serial number on it. You can see there's a little bit of finish that came back here on the rear sight, but not much. It's got that reinforcing screw here that's pretty typical of Indian manufacturer refurbishment. You can see there's not really any finish left on the front band here. Look at the nose cap. Nose caps doesn't really have any finish left on it, even with the carding. Got a little bit better, but not by much. And you can see the barrel does protrude a bit out of the nose cap. Good turn over. You can see here on the other side, the butt plate fits a bit better. Again, I think they sanded this down a little bit to fit that Martini Henry butt plate. So I'll have to do a little bit of work there. You can see that screw protruding. Pretty simple fix on the screw. A lot more finish on this side of the receiver. I suppose they got kind of lazy with the wire wheel, which is a good thing. Magazine has a little bit more finish as well. You can see the remnants of a marking here. It's pretty hard to make out though. There's also remnants of a marking here. And the nose cap, you can see it doesn't really fit real flush. Down there with the forestock, down there with the fore end. So again, I might do a little work on this nose cap, might replace it, see how it goes. The underside of the fore end here looks pretty good. I did get a sling swivel on it. I did replace this screw. This was missing before. I can't stress enough how handy dual purpose Enfields come in. You can get a lot of small parts from them, like screws and little bits that aren't pressure bearing parts. Other than the surface crack here, there's no damage to the fore end, which is good. The fore end's actually the most difficult part of the stock to replace, just because of the fitting required. It does look like there is something put through the stock here. Likely a reinforcement. The safety works pretty well too. It's pretty smooth. A lot of times these get loose or worn out. You can see here there's an inspection mark from GRI. And there's another close-up of some of the surface pitting on the bolt. So go ahead and take a look at the bore. It cleaned up pretty well. To clean these bores out, I typically go through a process of first I'll run some bore solvent through it and a brass brush, get some of the crud out of there, and then I'll follow up with some patches. And then what I'll do is I'll get some boiling water and I'll pour it down the bore. And you just have to be really careful because you don't want to scald yourself, but you can pour it down the barrel and then run a brass brush through it right after. And the bore will get pretty hot from the boiling water, and a lot of that stubborn crud will get brushed right out. Followed up with some patches, and I usually do that a few times with some boiling water, and it really helps clean it out. And then you can finish it with some patches and a bore snake. I like to save the bore snake for the end because if you put it through a really filthy bore, you're just going to destroy your bore snake. Try to get a video out soon of some of the repairs I'll make to the buttstock, especially that stock repair here up to the top. That's a pretty common repair that many of you will have to do if you get some of these Enfields from Africa, where there might be some damage here to the top or the bottom of the buttstock. So hope you liked this video on this #1 Mark III Enfield. I do have a video coming out soon on the M95 that I purchased. It was only $199, so that was a pretty good deal. And it's actually turning out to have a really nice bore. So I'm looking forward to showing you all that. If you'd like to get alerted of that video, feel free to sign up for alerts as well as subscribe. If you have any questions about this rifle, feel free to drop it in the comments. So as always, thank you for watching.